So here I'm just showing you warm versus cool. So I'm using a cooler toned neutral in the background. To have the contrast with the warmth in the hand. So the light source will be warmer and the shadows and background will be cooler. My first layer was completely neutral. It didn't really have the difference of warm versus cool. So this is my second layer that I'm applying that difference. And I'm using like half and half solvent and oil on my brush right now. Doing the background like this is also really helpful for carving out the edges of the figure. Because you want everything to look like shapes rather than outlines. Notice how in large areas, I use a large brush, quickly put in that color, and then as I get closer to the edge, I slow down. So the cool tone that I'm using, I don't know if you can see, this one here is the Caput Mortuum, which is the dark neutral purpley color. But you could use any cool color mixed with a dark neutral, such as a raw umber. That will give you that cool toned neutral for shadows and background and stuff like that. So I was using this bigger brush for the background, but I think I'll switch to my smaller brush for detail stuff. I think I'm going to add a touch of olive green into the shadows, the cool shadows on the hand, because I'm using a lot of yellow ochre or warm yellowy tones in the highlight, and also some pinkish colors. And so kind of like reddish yellow in the warm areas and purple and green in the cool areas. I kind of like the idea of making the warm parts of the hand, or the red parts, pop out, and the green, because it's complementary to the red, will do that. And then the yellow is complementary to the purple. So that core shadow will be my darkest shadow. So even though this looks all equally dark in my photo, I know the properties of light and how they work, and I know that the core shadow will be the darkest. And then as it gets close to the edge, it will be less dark. So that way I won't lose that edge between the hand and the background. I'm also using some brush strokes that go with the form or with the anatomy. So for example, when I come down here, you can see those bony landmarks are showing on the hand. So I will use brush strokes that go in that direction. So even though the colors are not matching, because I'm exaggerating the warm light, cool shadow, the proportions and structure is matching, and I'm not keeping entirely true to the values, but I'm looking for highlights and shadow. So as you can see, overall this is extremely dark, so I'm not going as dark as that because I want kind of a fuller range of value here. Oftentimes the redder tones will come out more in the knuckles and fingertips. You can always come back with that background and carve. So not everything has to be fully rendered to look realistic, as you can see. But now I have the warm light source and cool shadow and cool background. And I have got a range of values, so it looks 3D, it looks alive. I've focused on structure, but not trying to lose the gesture or expression. Sometimes it's helpful to use kind of these, showing the brushstrokes will help, and using kind of like longer lines when you can will kind of retain that gesture. But you could see how I went back and forth between adding in the positive space area and then carving around it with the negative space. So I'm just kind of looking through one more time here to see if there's anything else I want to add. Don't be afraid to let some of the colors to mix together a little bit when you're painting, but you also don't want to let it happen so much where your paints get muddy. You can still kind of see the color here. It didn't turn like mud. You'll also notice that I pretty much used, you can see the size here, kind of a medium size for the background, and then this kind of smaller flat brush. So I really didn't even go for any rounds. You can if you want, but I'm not being too picky about the detail. As you can see, the nails are kind of suggested with the shape. I'm not trying to get them perfect. See, that's enough, just like 3 values to suggest some of those areas. So I would say that this has a good balance between gesture and structure. We've got warmth in the highlights, cool tones in the shadow, and I'll show you my palette one more time. So here you could see I used some reddish tones. I've got my yellow ochre lighter tones, adding white as needed to lighten it. And I've got my purple tones, and I was adding some of the olive green into those shadow colors for the shadows on the arm. So I kind of like used this background color but added the olive green to get my shadows. So that gave me that warm and cool. And as you can see, structurally, proportionally, it's matching my photo, but in terms of the color and the exact value, it's different. I pushed it to be more successful in the painting.